Hey, welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast, where we just chase our dreams, period. It seems like it'd be the opposite because of what it's titled. I promise you, it's far more than that. It's about exploring where our dreams died and rising back up and deciding that we matter again and deciding to take our lives back and establish what those terms are, period. So let's dive in. We're going to ground ourselves in our greatness. My great thing from yesterday really, we have been behind. And I wish that I could say that it was COVID related. Now, I'm going to go ahead and blame the past month on COVID. Tiredness, like pre-sickness tiredness. But what I can't blame COVID on, even though I kind of can in a roundabout way, is the last 6 months. And I think that's okay. For me, it's been really tough to not force myself back into my own natural ability to just out hustle and work harder and move faster and do all of those things. And while I do a lot of those things still, there definitely has been a marginal decline within the last 6 months. And it really was that final piece, removing that final piece of identity. So what does that look like in a physical sense? Because all of you have been able to experience the highs and the lows over the last 6 months. The rebuilding of self and identity in that time has been just crazy and all over the place. And so I've been just attempting to learn a heck of a lot more about myself, period. And one of the things that I've noticed in the physical sense that has shown up has been my space. And since I live, work, and thrive only in my space, right, my home, it's been super hard to live in this space. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in today's episode. But, yesterday, my great thing was really just catching back up after COVID. So all of my YouTube videos have been uploaded. The last 2 weeks are a little bit messy, and just hang in there if you want to watch those. Go crazy. But they're all there, and I finished those yesterday, so they are up to date, and we're producing in real time again. Yay! Because going back and producing the amount of content that I'm used to producing is hard. I really only committed to staying up with the YouTube videos. The rest of it, we just kind of took a break because I was tired, right? Come on, party people. And then I just start to realize that we've really willingly been living under kind of this cloud. And for me, growing up, it was sort of how I constructed my life. It's like, when we're on, we are on. We are on fire. We are firing on all cylinders. But when we are off, like, we can not get above water, because above water for someone like me looks like, right, like doing everything. And so when you are willingly doing nothing, it's hard because you don't go from doing absolutely nothing to doing a million things. So it's been a slower build, but I can definitely feel us recovering from that cloud moment. And I know I've said that before, because definitely I was feeling like last month, all of a sudden we were starting to feel this energy again, like I was getting it back, and then boom, COVID, and we went right back there. But now that we're kind of caught back up from COVID and the sleeping isn't caught back up because, like I said, my 7-year-old has it, and there's a pretty good chance my 4-year-old this morning woke up feeling really sore and achy. And like a human can describe that, an adult can describe that, but a 4-year-old describing that sounds a lot like, Mom, my feet are broken. Mom, my knees are broken and my shoulders. So there's a chance, a very high likelihood that she's also coming down with it. She couldn't sleep. She wasn't willing to sleep without me. These are all very rare things because she's a pretty sound sleeper. And so my assumption, my little guess here is that the 4-year-old's coming down with it too. So there hasn't been a whole lot of sleep, right? It's been a lot of like, okay, you're sleeping with dad, which is a abnormal thing. You two can be in that bedroom. My 7-year-old has been only living in her bedroom, not leaving it, which is a really sad and hard thing for a 7-year-old to experience too. That being said, that's taking a little bit of my energy, my time, my sleep, but I still feel more energy and excitement for my life, for what I'm building, for where we're headed than I have prior. And that feels amazing. And getting re-caught up yesterday felt amazing because it was kind of like letting go of that COVID layer and releasing that. And then I actually scheduled and recorded our bonus episode series that will kick off this Friday. So I'm super excited. I sat down and talked with someone that I grew up with. And we talked about her journey through kicking diets to the curb, which she went through just recently over quarantine. And we talk about her experience with that and really what she's still discovering and still having happen in her life as a result of that. And so, it was just nice to be back in the flow a little bit. And so now I feel like, okay, let's go ahead and get the rest of these series scheduled out. Let's get these amazing guests. I had all of them scheduled to record kind of the beginning of the month in November, and I had to go ahead and cancel those. So we are rescheduling those. We're getting them moved around and redone now. And it just feels like we're ramping up to this life, this commitment to this thing, to building my own thing. And it couldn't feel better. But this is what you should know. It doesn't come without kind of a low period too. So we did not get out unscathed, good people. It hurt. It hurt for a while. It still hurts a little bit, but every day, you wake up, you heal a little bit more, you come back, you hurt some days more than you do other days. And those days you just choose to love yourself anyways and keep moving forward. So my great thing was getting caught up from COVID, still recovering and getting caught up, but feeling enough energy to move, for goodness sakes. All right. Go ahead and take time for yourself. Recognize yourself for your great thing. I can't excuse you from this activity. It must be done. If you're still here, if you're still listening, if you're still a part of this movement, do it. I'm telling you. It's uncomfortable at first, but you get better at it. It's important that you get better at it because you deserve it. There's no other reason. You deserve to be able to speak to how amazing you are because I know that you are. I know that you're changing the world. I know that you're moving in ways that most people aren't. I know. So recognize yourself for it. Even if it's privately, it will feel amazing. Okay. Today, we're talking about energies, right? And I have this innate ability to feel an energy from a person in a room, in a lot of different places. And I'm tapping into and better understanding how I do that, why I do that, how it all happens. And I'm working on understanding that. This is my current understanding of how imperative it is for me to be in control of my spaces, because I am impacted by the energy. So like feng shui type stuff, having clean lines, clean, uncluttered spaces. This is why. This isn't an attempt to like jump on the minimalist train and get on something trending. This is the importance of, if you're someone who can feel energy, right? So that doesn't even mean that you feel it in a room, and you may not fully understand or comprehend your ability to do this, but this is why it's super important. If you can, if like you can walk into a room and you can understand if this is going to be a positive meeting or a negative meeting or a heated meeting or a aggressive meeting, if you can understand that just by walking in, you can probably read energies. If you can look at a person and know what they're experiencing, even if they don't verbalize it to you, you can probably read energies in some way. And so if you have that ability, and I think a lot of people have that ability, I think a lot of us just silence it because, trust me, it's a hard one to navigate. It's really hard, especially because a lot of times we're told not to bring our emotions in. And if you're a natural reader of emotions, body language, people, energies, if you're natural at that, it's really hard to curb that. And so you're probably doing a lot more work to ignore it than you are to emphasize and listen to it. This is what I'll tell you. Once you dive into and explore a little bit more of what this power is, of the beauty that it brings you, a lot of it tied to just a higher sense of empathy than most people have. Once you understand that, you'll understand the importance of a clean, conducive environment. So for me, anytime that I'm walking into a space that has a weird energy or has a cluttered, chaotic energy, I struggle to connect. I struggle to really be present, because it's hard for me to live and produce and engage in weird charged environments. And that can be weird charged because of the people that are in there making a weird environment. It can be weird charged because of the chaos of the room, right? If it's cluttered, if it's just all over the place. I don't know exactly what it is. I know for me, clutter and a misunderstanding of what we're trying to do here really hurts my energy space. So, in my house, right, we've been knowingly struggling for the entirety of this year. It's 2020. All of us are. I'm not alone. Welcome. Hello, people. This is what I'll tell you. Now that I'm kind of coming back, what I realized yesterday is that there's just this layer of grime in my house on all things. It's not because I'm lazy. It's not because I haven't been cleaning. It's because there's this hard to reach place that's just existed in this weird energy for so long that it's been hard to cut through and really get down to the grime. And so yesterday I was just like, no, we're done. We have to reset. We have to get past this place. We have to get rid of this layer. And it was on everything. Everything, I'm telling you, it's on baseboards. It's on, and I've been like wiping things down and doing all of that, but I haven't been in there deep, right? Really eliminating the clutter and the grime. really making sure that my spaces are intentional and clean and whole. And so the energy was off in the entirety of my house, and the energy was off really because of this layer of grime. So the grime really started in the kitchen for me. And yesterday that was like the last thing to go. Kitchens are my least favorite to clean. It's because of this grime. It really is actually because it's so hard and there are so many layers. Like you gotta you gotta do the cupboards. Those have to be cleaned and organized and cleaned out. You have to do the sink. You have to do the dishes. You have to do the fridges, freezers. You have to do the stove. Like there are just so many things that are grime producing in that environment that I struggle. Okay? Me in the kitchen. We're not the best of friends. We don't fully understand each other in cooking modes, in cleaning modes, in capitalizing, understanding, and keeping everything put together in this space. It's hard to keep things put together when you're trying to avoid them because cooking. Okay. But yesterday I was like, no, the grime, it's got to go. We have to restart. And since I've been avoiding said kitchen for, I don't know, 6 months at least, if not more, probably the entirety of this year, there was a whole lot of grime. And it took a very long time to recover from that. But this was kind of the last shoe to drop. And now, and while I was doing good, I was faking it. Most of my other spaces pretty clean, pretty uncluttered. The kitchen, it was fine. I was faking it. I could definitely tell that there was like this layer of disgustingness, but for the most part, everything was operating and we were good. However, the overall energy of the space was not up to the highest standard. Now, why? Well, I want you to think of energy like a light, right? And so some of you can even read energies in this way where you can see the light of a space. And for me, everything was pretty well lit and doing good, but the kitchen was definitely like had this layer that was dimming the light. And so when you enter into a weird energy, that light can be dimmed. And so for me, the light in my house, while mostly it was white and shiny, there were definitely spaces where it was dimmed. And I operate fully in this space currently and definitely for the next probably 2 weeks. So we'll probably end our spurt in quarantine at right around 6 weeks, right? So I'm only in this space. If there is a dim light here, it's negatively impacting me. And for me, since energies are so important, right? Because I'm like a high frequency reader of energies, it's imperative that I make sure that I'm creating conducive spaces that allow me to operate at the frequency at which I want to operate. And so 6 months ago, when I came back into the home, when I stopped leaving my home, when my home became my office, when my home became my living space and my working space, it would have been really important to start with a clean slate of energy, right? And this has always been important. This is why we went through the minimalism, because it was too hard and too overwhelming for me to take care of the space that was cluttered, right? And this is why. This is why we had to go down that path, because of how important and essential a clean, conducive energy environment is. So yesterday it was like the final count. It's the final countdown. It's the final countdown. I'm serious, right? And now it's just like, okay, now my aura in this space is just so much lighter. And I grew up in such cluttered and chaotic spaces, mostly because of myself. Like, I could have cleaned it, but I didn't quite understand how negatively that was impacting me and how hard it was for me to adapt in that environment, which is probably why I spent a lot of my time outside. One, probably to avoid cleaning. Two, because I was just like a street kid. I couldn't get enough of riding my banana seat bike around the entire town that I lived in. So either way, space, energy is important. If you've been putting something off, right, take this weekend. Fully remove whatever it is. And I saw this, Glennon Doyle had posted this earlier this week. And I wanted to use it, but I didn't know how I would. And here it is, finding space, right here on the show. Unintentionally, here it is. And she had posted the thing that you're trying to avoid. Let's take time to heal that. And, you know, yeah, with anything. And it can look a lot of different ways. So for me, it was like, I was almost trying to avoid, and I think this is very telling. I think I was trying to avoid kind of pulling. It wasn't that I didn't have time, because I'm literally in this house all the time. I think I was trying to avoid pulling off that last layer of grime, because then there's no excuse, right? If energy's right, if we're doing the things, if we're putting ourselves out there, and if all those things are flowing and we're still rejected and we still lose, then you have no excuse. So it was just easier, right, to keep the kitchen kind of in a chaotic sense, to keep one thing. And that's how it would be for me. I would always have one thing that I just didn't get done, right? But since I'm so impacted by the energy of an environment, that one last thing really stuck in my mind, and thus impacted every move that I would make following that one thing not getting done. And I have the time. I have the space. I have the ability, and I still wasn't doing it. It's not because I wasn't able. It's because I didn't want to, right? Because then we're at this perfect instance. Do you even know how to handle this perfect instance anymore, right? Like, you're a completely different person. You're in a completely different work environment. You are the master. You are creating this thing. And so if you don't have any excuses, right? If we get the energy right, if we got it all flowing, and you still fail, then what? Wow. That was like a real big dose that I wasn't really ready to hand over to myself. Sorry, I gotta breathe that one in for a second. But that's the reality. That's what we're all facing. I think sometimes we present the challenge in order to save ourselves, right? Like, really, is the energy of the room so important? Absolutely. It absolutely is to me. No question. But does that hold me back? No. I could still do everything in a mess. You know, mentally, physically, it's hard for me to really move unless I have that part right, but I still could have. You know, because my mind is always wandering, right, to the next thing. Trust. And so if I don't have everything where it needs to be, it's hard for me to not want to do that, right? And even easier for me to be like, that needs to be done first, and then just put off everything that I don't want to do because of that thing, right? And so yesterday was like the final straw of, nope, we're taking care of this. We are doing this last thing. We are removing all of the grime and all of the exhaustion that comes along with this space. And this is it. Now you have no excuse. Now you have no, oh, but I could do this. Oh, but I should do this. Oh, but I want to do this, need to do this. Gone. Everything is done. The energy is correct and flowing. Right? Now, there's no excuse. There's no cop-out. There's no way to escape. There's no misaligned energy space that I'm living in. There's this beautiful, conducive environment where I can live, work, and thrive. But I was kind of holding on to that last thing. And now, gone. It's gone. But I do want you to pay attention to your own space. Even if you aren't working in it, what in your space overwhelms you, or what in your space are you trying to avoid? Let's go ahead and take some time to just heal that space, to come back into that space, right? And to just find ourselves relaxing there, find ourselves thriving there, reading a book there, learning there, growing a side hustle there, whatever it is, right? Teaching kiddos there, whatever you're doing in that space, I want you to be able to do it presently and fully and not be pulled. Because an energy read in a room isn't necessarily like your innate ability to read energies and some, super spiritual thing. It really is, are you able to sit present in your space? Because you're not constantly thinking about what you could be doing instead of sitting, instead of X, Y, and Z, right? And I can't save you from like, if you want to go work out or like, and you'd rather just sit on the couch, like maybe you should just sit on the couch. I don't know, right? Maybe do a workout that excites you. Maybe do something that makes you want to go do it, not threatening yourself with something you don't want to do. Just saying. Okay. Regardless, the energy of your space really is and can be read by your ability to be present in whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to read a book, if you want to scroll your phone, are you able to sit there and do that fully, not thinking about the 10 things that you could be doing instead? Can you do that? Once you kind of heal those things, once you go out and get those things done, maybe take the weekend. Hopefully a lot of us are just staying in our houses, so it would be a great opportunity to do that. Go ahead and heal that space. Go ahead and heal that energy. See if that changes things. See if that gives you more time and freedom to do the extra things that you want to do, right? Whether that's exploring a new hobby, whether that's exploring some sort of side hustle or writing or whatever you want that outlet to be. See if healing that kind of final thing on your list creates an environment where you can be more present and intentional in that work. Even if it's working out, even if it's, there's something to be said for the importance of whatever space you're in, right? It either inspires you and moves you, or it depresses you and holds you back. So start paying attention to the energy of the spaces that you are in. It's super important. It really is. And it all comes down to your ability to be present. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.